your boy Dijon McCain, man. You're now rocking with the Juice Podcast. Episode what? Episode 6, which is crazy to think about. Episode 6.
This 6 already?
This is 6.
Oh, dang.
This is 6. I'm like, shit, it's been a whole transition. Remember, I was broke, and I used to steal niggas' equipment. Well, not niggas, like my friends' equipment. I seen how y'all looked at me. Like, I used to steal my friends' equipment, and just to use it, but then it wasn't working right, but now we here.
I
So,
remember that.
what you mean remember?
I remember you.
I ain't never told nobody.
I was there for 2 hours while you were trying
She
to
did tell me you get her right dirty as fuck from that
Hold on.
last
Why
episode.
everybody always? First of all, why everybody always doing
Violence
this old
hell.
shit? It's
Violence
2019. It's 2019.
You forget, but don't forget.
I lost that.
You super fine for that.
I lost it. I gotta find it. But you're back though. You're back. Let me introduce y'all real quick. To the left of me, you got my man Clifton, the one and only in here. What up, man? Very intelligent young man. Been rocking with him since he's a freshman.
Yes. When I was a bit shabby, but
I can't hear you, bro.
back in
The people can't hear you.
You right.
The people can't hear you. You
I still feel like the mic off,
Okay, good.
but it's probably on.
It's on. You say it on, right?
Yeah, we
I
can.
often said, don't scare me like that. Don't worry.
Let's go.
I'm about to be like, oh shit. Oh. To the left of him, got my main man's Josh, all the way from St. Cloud.
Hey,
man.
active.
Josh,
I said Josh Cobb too. I need the last name of that.
Josh Cobb, baby.
There you go. There you go.
Woo!
Certified.
This
Hey,
man,
follow me, Josh Cobbler _.
Go ahead, don't throw it out there, bro.
Yeah.
You ain't getting paid for this, so don't worry.
I need to put her.
I get paid for it.
I'm dead.
Now, me and him go back to St. Cloud, man. I'm proud. Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Got
man.
you
I'm
here.
proud of you too, man.
Yes, sir.
My little peanut growing up. That's crazy.
No, don't do me like that. Man. Put some respect on my name. To his left, we got Jennifer. What's good? What up?
Hello.
Oh, yo. Jen is so bougie, man. Jen is, oh my God.
I'm about to say that's the 5th time I heard bougie
I
already.
tried to let her in the door for the listeners. I tried to let her in my apartment, and she walked right past me. I tried to get a hug. She said, yeah, what happened, nigga? You had me outside. I was like, oh, shit. Anyways, thank you for being here. Hey, can y'all in the back, you got to, yeah, quite, thank y'all.
Hello.
And to the left of Jan, we got the one and only Jazzy in this mug, man. What's good?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Check out the Mixed Feelings podcast
Shout out.
season 2 this summer.
Shout out to air horn, the air horn.
That's what they ain't gonna lie to you.
Air horn. It's nice. It's different.
Thank you.
I gotta
Wait,
listen.
tell me, we share mics?
Me and Yazzie, yeah, y'all are.
Oh, okay, cool.
Me and Yazzie, man, we go backwards. Freshman year, but I remember specifically the podcast, I was trying to get her on a year ago. Yazzie wasn't trying to do it. She said, I called her up, she said, what you talking about? Nah, nigga.
That didn't happen. I don't remember all that.
I remember that shit.
Yikes.
I'm playing. Nah, thank y'all so much for being with me today, man. We are gonna have a dope episode. We're talking about dating preferences / gender roles. So, shit
Sheesh.
they like, he didn't tell me that. He didn't text me that. Look, that's why I only tell people my topic. Let me keep it as organic as possible. So now that y'all know, we're gonna get right into it. So, just thinking about this topic, man. A lot of times we think about like the way things, the norms, I would say, inside of relationships in terms of dating. So, just starting off light, what gender roles are still enforced in modern relationships or relationships that you see now? You know, maybe it's your own, maybe it's family, but like, what kind of roles do you see in men and women?
Who's in a relationship?
Guilty as charged. I'm proud of it, young boy.
He said, guilty. Are you guilty, man, brother? He called him up. He said, look, yeah. So y'all in a relationship, is it like, it ain't gotta be about this relationship. Is it like, you feel like certain things were supposed to go a certain way when you was in that relationship? Like, and then you had to check their ass, like, hold on, nigga. I know what society say, but this is what I say. Was there ever a moment like that?
Yeah, I've always had to check people, I feel like. But I think that's just my personality. Like, I definitely challenge patriarchy and sexism, especially in my relationships, because a lot of times guys don't realize when they're being sexist to their woman. So you gotta check them. You gotta let them know certain things, they aren't the way that your parents did it. You know what I mean? Like, certain things have evolved, have changed. Now that I got a job, I don't need a man to provide for me. So it's like I have different needs from a man.
Go ahead and say it, Jen. Period. Always throw that out there. So what are some of those examples of things you had to check people for, or like, I don't know, you sound like you had some experience in that.
Yeah,
Clenching my
you
mic a
know.
little harder, so I was kind of curious what happened.
Well, okay, one conversation that I've had is about like head of the household, right? Like who should be the head of the household. And for me, I feel like that is entirely dependent upon the relationship itself. It's not something that should just be given to a man just because he got a dick. Like, I don't think that that qualifies anybody to be a leader of a house. I mean, that works for some people, but it really depends. Like, sometimes the woman should be the head of the household, and sometimes it should just be an equal partnership. I don't think it should just default to man being the head of the household.
Should there be a head of a household though? Like, or is that like old thinking, you know?
Personally,
Okay, go
personally, for me, I think it should be shared. But I don't think it's my place to jump into another person's relationship and tell them like, oh, you need to share it. But in my case, I would say it should be shared because a relationship takes two or more if you're polyamorous to work. And I think for it to actually work, you have to take in different perspectives from both sides.
I kind of want to challenge us to like really think about what the definition is, because like me, I grew up in a household. My dad
Definition of
loves saying
what? Household? Definition of what?
head of household.
Head.
Right. So like I grew up in a household where my dad loved to claim, I'm the man in the house, I'm the head of the household. Yet my mom was handling the bills, she was cleaning the house. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what does that really mean? You know what I'm saying? Like it's solely based off you being a man. So like I agree it should be shared, but it's just usually people use that term in a way of reclaiming power in the name of patriarchy. So.
That's real. I feel like it shouldn't be a head of a household at all. Like, I don't know, like, nigga, if you broke and you ain't got no job and I'm taking care of us, I ain't gonna go tell people like, yeah, I'm the head of the household. My nigga ain't doing shit. Or my woman ain't doing shit. Like, it's just gonna make y'all look bad inevitably. So I feel like now in 2019 we get into a point where we're starting to like change those narratives and starting to like throw away that old vocab. But I can hear my grandpa now. Like, look, hold on, I don't know what you're talking about on this podcast. Man. This is the way we should be. So going off of that, like the head of the household, I feel like expectations are a thing that kind of can dictate. It makes it possible for us to have a head of the household. Like, what expectations do men place on women? Let's go with that first. The biggest thing, it's not. It's good. You ain't gotta say about you. You can say like.
Just expectations in general
Yeah, just expectations.
that men have.
Yeah.
I mean, they expect. They expect their woman to, you know, always look good and cook clean, you know, all the old traditional stuff. Yeah, the housewife. I know a lot of men. I think also when we come up, like my mom, she kind of grew me up to believe that was the norm, and that's what you should look for. You should look for a woman that can cook, that can clean, that can be a nurturer. So I think that's one thing that I mean, in the real world, when it really comes down to it, that's not really it. But that's just the old man's point of view.
And the truth is, like, since it's so embedded in our society, a lot of people, like, when we talk about these conversations, a lot of people like to say, like, oh, well, no, that's not me. But I'm not going to sit up in here and lie. Like, yes, I want a woman that can cook for me. But that's not going to prevent me from getting in that kitchen and cooking for her. You feel me? So, like...
Hold on. Look. Y'all ain't say that. Y'all ain't say
Real quick, what's your specialty dish?
My specialty dish,
Because I can only cook pasta.
Chicken
I ain't gonna lie to you.
Alfredo.
I can only cook pasta. I ain't gonna lie to you. But hey, no, time out. But I do gotta need a stir fry. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Go with it. Go with it.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
Everything got they one dish.
I do. I got a few. I gotta put it in rotation.
Couple of them.
If you see all three, you really bang.
A little bit. Make it a little bit. So I can do it in there. Now in terms of women, let's talk about the women in general. Oh shit. Here we go. What expectations do women place on men in or out of relationships? Like, just in general.
You better be able to.
I got a couple of them off the top of my head, but
You better be able to
Are you
provide.
asking like traditionally, societally, or personally?
Yeah.
Because I just
societally, we could say societally.
Society is easier to say.
to be honest, I think in society, a lot of people expect men still to like pick up the bill,
Yeah.
you know, be the provider, be the protector. Kind
Have a
of.
car, have a house, you know, be well to do with themselves at like an early age. So I think that's society's perception of what like a male should do when it comes to relationships and gender.
Now for you, you know, being African, like, why was how was that in like your household comfortable? Like, what were some of those things that you were taught that you should value or search for in a man?
So my parents are from Nigeria, as Dijon alluded to, and they're very traditional. So growing up, I was taught that the male is always the head of the household, regardless of income, regardless of where they are at life. If you're in a relationship, the man is the head of the household, which is kind of shaped my views today, because I can see where that can be an issue in some relationships when, let's say, the woman is the breadwinner and she's making more money, or she is the one whose name is, you know, under the house and everything. So in case of my parents, my mom is a breadwinner. Like, she makes more money than my father. That's been the case since they've gotten together. But my father still makes the money decisions. So there was a time where she would have to give him her paycheck and then get an allowance back. And I always thought that was weird.
It's so wild, man.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. Like, I think as a result of that behavior, it's kind of like that became the norm over time, to where we just, I think today, men, not even just black men, but as a society, we can't really allow women to be in positions of power. We can't see women in positions of power. So that's what I thought about with your story specifically.
And not just money, like, now I love my father, and like, as time has gone on, like, he's grown and like our relationship has grown, but like, there was a time where he would give my mom like a curfew. Like,
Wait,
had
so
to,
your mom was actually come
yes, like that's how like, that's why like it shapes my, yeah, it shapes who I am today, where I feel like it should be shared, or it's situational. So.
I mean, like, I don't want my wife coming home at 3 a.m. because then I might have some questions. But
I mean,
with
with reason, yeah.
Right.
I feel it, but
I think that's just mutual respect, though. Like, you know, if you're in a respectful relationship, you're not going to come home at 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
4 a.m. without telling your partner where you've been at. But you set rules and set those kind of like expectations of one another, where it's like, I don't know, so structured where you can't just flow with it, you know?
So how do you have that balance then, I guess, versus expectation, like over like preference? Because it seems like you can't have, if you can't have that expectation, then you're like, oh shit, well now my expectation is gonna become a preference. So now, if I break up with that person in a relationship, then I think it becomes a preference. Like, well, my last nigga didn't fuck with this, but I want to seek somebody else. So like, is it bad to have a preference in a relationship, or in terms of looks, or in terms of way you want to be treated, or you know?
I don't think it's necessarily bad to have a preference, but as human beings, we gotta be flexible. Like, everybody's gonna make mistakes, everybody's an individual, and as we grow, things change. So if your preferences aren't flexible and you're not an understanding individual, you're gonna run into issues regardless of what your preferences are and your expectations are, especially if you don't discuss those expectations.
and to piggyback off of that, I feel like we're all like the demographic that's sitting here right now. We're all young. We're in our early 20s. We don't fully know what we want or what we need anyway. So we do have to be
I know
flexible.
what I want.
Oh shit! Here we go. No, you don't.
Go ahead, speak.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Loyalty.
Here we go.
Honestly,
I don't know, man. Y'all don't know what y'all want. I feel like no one.
We do to a certain extent.
to a certain extent, you know what you don't want.
I feel
You
like
can easily point out what you don't want.
That's real. You can easily point out, but I think it also becomes. I feel like
Okay, that's
I
the basic
don't know, man. No, let's go into that though.
That's
It's
the
basic,
that's
but
the
it
basic
is
stuff.
complex.
It's the
though.
basic stuff, but like, why are we still facing so much disloyalty, so much unfaithfulness?
Oh, fact. I mean, that's because people ain't being 100 with y'all.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna drop the ball. I feel like women like that shit. Like, y'all like unfaithfulness, y'all like
Speak on it.
the fights, y'all like the lies. Like, I think specifically women want that chase. You want a rough nigga, like the nigga gotta have 2 strikes with a college degree. But got an 8-inch, you know, he's jacket. I was just saying, y'all don't agree with it. Go ahead.
So that's the first
And I got something for that too. She said, oh, that nigga gotta have an 8-inch. But no, am I wrong though? Like,
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I don't think we like, a lot of us don't fully know what we want. We don't know if we want that hood nigga. We don't know if we want that collegiate scholar nigga. Like, it's just kind of, that's why I think it's the complete opposite thing is like, you don't know what you want right now. So it's like one day you want that super hyper masculine aggressive nigga, and then next you want him to cry about his feelings. So it's kind of,
what we got to say? Jay, go ahead. Yasmin, go ahead. Somebody say something. Jay, don't act nervous now. We have these conversations all the time.
I don't know. I feel like,
what you need?
what do I need?
What do you need?
Oh, let her answer.
Okay, my bad. Answer first. My bad. I'm getting thirsty.
Josh got excited.
I don't know. When I think about what I want from a man or from my partner, again, it does go back to like the basic needs of like loyalty, honesty, like trust, like all of that, because I feel like you need that basic understanding for you to progress. So I think that's very important. Yes, it's basic, but like it's very important. And then from there, I guess it's just like preferences. Well, yeah, and then it goes to preference. Like I want a family man. Like I want someone who's funny. He doesn't have to be funny, I guess, but like that's a like, you know, A+ bonus. Yeah, if he's funny, and like it is an A+ bonus if he can switch from being like super goofy to being serious and like can open up. So it's not me, but it is a preference.
That was nice, politically correct answer. That was a
What?
very nice politically correct answer, right?
To be real, like for me, I need someone who's gonna foster my growth. Like I need someone who's gonna hold me accountable and like be real with me to make sure that I'm on track doing what I need to do to be the best me. And I think a lot of times because we are young, we're afraid of our own growth, and so we end up meeting people and staying with people that aren't there for our own growth, but they're there because we're comfortable with them. And so it's challenging to be like, okay, you're not good for me and you're not good for my growth, but I'm gonna stay with you because dick is bomb or whatever, you got a good car. But we don't face that in ourselves. We never would admit that out loud, but deep down we know when we're doing wrong.
So where does the fear come from then? Like, say more about that fear aspect. Like you say you're comfortable, so are you comfortable being with somebody that you know don't really have shit to offer you, or like?
I think for a lot of us,
or not even just you, or just what you see. You know
right?
what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. I think for a lot of people, especially like young Black people, we haven't really seen those like good relationships in our lives, right? Like we haven't seen really stable relationships in our families or in our households. So it's like you don't have a model to go off of. I mean, I guess that might be true for white families too, but I know for me, like I had a single mom, so I never like saw that relationship that I wanted to strive to have. Right. So I'm going off of what I saw my parents do, and that's not really what I want for myself long term.
I think that's key. That's key, and I completely agree. I think for me, when I look at women and relationships, I look at my parents and I know what not to do. But we don't know. I don't have a blueprint on what to do. You know. So it's kind of like one of those things. You gotta feel it out. You gotta trial and error. You gotta just do what you gotta do. You feel me?
And to be honest, like personally, I think that's the beauty of relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like that trial and error and seeing the growth come out of that. Like I don't ever, like me, I say this all the time. Any relationship I'm in or any woman that like I was associated with, I don't ever regret that because I learned something from that experience, whether it was on my part or how, you know, women think in general. If I'm, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know, like you said, like accountability. Regardless of where we are in life, I need a woman who's gonna hold me accountable and be like, yo, that wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? Like, cool, let me reflect. Thank you for being that partner at that time. I didn't need a girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? I needed someone, a friend, to come there and be like, this is the situation, how can we go from this? You know what I'm saying? So, accountability.
I chose the right people. Look, y'all are smart as hell. I'm over here. I'm trying to process every single thing. Yo, should I talk about that? Should I talk about? Man, then I got my own questions. I'm like, oh man, nah, y'all are killing it.